Welcome to Tactics Training Part 3. Important thing to notice in this first position is the fact that the knight on h4 is lacking squares. Currently it can only go safely to f3. Attacking the knight directly with 15 g5 does not work because the knight can either simply retreat to f3 or it can jump to f5. The solution therefore needs to start with the move 15 e4, which takes away the safe squares f3 and f5 from the knight momentarily. White should now take the pawn with the bishop, but it allows the double threat queen g4, which forks both the knight and the bishop. This second position starts with white making a double threat, threatening the mate on h7 and the bishop on c5. It gives the reply g6, which is obviously bad in this position. It protects against the mate threat but ignores the other threat. Black had to play bishop takes d4 check first, and then g6 would be a playable move. Third position, here black made a bold choice of capturing the pawn on f4 because it opens up the file where the black king is. White can now just simply take on f4 with the bishop, and black has no good way of retaking the piece because the knight on g6 is pinned and it leaves the queen as the only piece that can take the bishop. If black does take on f4, it is replied with rook f1 and white wins the queen for a rook and a knight. This fourth position seems like an easy one. White's 44th move, rook takes e5, left the rook at d1 unprotected. Is there a problem related to 44 queen takes d1? If the game continues 45 rook g5 check, then simply king f8 and white has nothing to show for the lost material. If 45 rook e7 is played, then queen takes d6 wins. Note that rook takes e7 would be a horrible move, since after d takes e7 white would get back to the game due to the threats e takes d8 queen and e8 queen. In both of those cases white ends up having a winning position. I filled this puzzle because I thought that 45 f6 is a good way to get away from the discovered check. The problem with the move seems to be that rook g5 check is a possible reply, and if king f7, then queen c4 check and white will be able to deliver checkmate. If on the other hand the king goes to h7 after 46 rook g5 check, then queen takes f6 and again black seems to lose the game. The problems on the f-file are what is essential to see in this position. White should have simply moved the attacked bishop because the move g3 allowed the piece to be won, starting with g5. If the bishop moves, then g4 and black wins the knight due to the pin on the f-file. In this sixth position one needs to take advantage of the pins. The bishop pins the knight on d2, and when the queen captures the pawn on d4 there is another pin on the fourth rank and white can't get away from both pins. In addition, the queen also attacks the undefended pawn on d2. If white now decides to castle, it would free the knight on d2 to move and protect the pawn on b2. But then black should play bishop takes d2 check, and no matter how white captures back, white will lose either the knight on e4 or the bishop on h4. Well, what about f3 after queen takes d4? Well then, bishop takes e4, f takes e4, bishop takes d2 check, queen takes d2, queen takes e4 check, bishop e2, queen takes h4 check, and black wins easily. The problem with the move 22 rook e1 is that the rook is undefended, and the fact that black can make a discovered attack against the rook and the queen on f3 by capturing the pawn on d4. If now white simply plays c takes d4, then rook takes e1 check, after which black is up the exchange and a pawn. It might be the best line because if queen f2 for example is the reply, then rook takes e1 check, queen takes e1, knight f3 check wins the queen. Unfortunately, I messed up this puzzle because I went to g5 instead with the knight, which is not as good as knight takes d4. In this position, white threatens to win a piece with bishop takes e5. The only problem at the moment is that the white king is being checked by the queen. White can, however, drive the queen back to d8 by playing b4 and then simply take the free knight on e5. I actually failed this puzzle and had 3 failed attempts before finding the correct move b4. Of those failed attempts, I really think that the best try was queen d2, but after black simply trades queens and castles, there is no threat anymore. This may at first seem like an easy puzzle since the knight on d2 looks like a free piece. The thing that made this a tough puzzle is that white replies with queen f6, which threatens both queen d8 check and queen takes e6 check, and defending against them is a bit problematic. The rook does not have any good moves, it will be either lost or the rook move allows checkmate. After a thought of several minutes and failing the puzzle with the move bishop f4, which seems like a completely nonsensical move at the moment, I just wanted to see the solution and gave the move queen g5, which is good enough for a win. Here the problem for white is the pin on the 4th rank, and if white does not reply correctly, the bishop on d4 is lost. 26 rook c4 was a very bad move because of the following line: 27 rook g3, queen takes e5, bishop takes e5, rook takes g4, rook takes g4. 27 queen takes e5 is probably the best option since both g6 and g5 can be replied with h takes g6, and then black is likely mated soon after. Black had to play king h8 in order to reply to the move rook g3 with rook g8. Due to the nature of these puzzles, one sort of knows that the first move needs to be queen takes e7 check. The thing that white needs to be aware of in this position is that black threatens mate on b2 and on a1. The best reply is 38 rook d7, and now white should continue with queen takes d7 check. If king takes d7, then bishop f5 check wins the queen back. But what should white do if black simply plays king b8 and does not take the queen? Then white just goes for the line queen d6 check, king a8, rook d4, where white needs to give up the exchange in order to avoid mate and have the winning endgame. With rook d1, white does get away from the mate net, but rook d1 loses the rook. A better try was rook f5. Black should simply play 32 rook a takes h2 check, king g1, rook h1 check, and no matter where the king moves, rook takes d1 next. Unfortunately for black, the move knight takes d5 simply loses a piece for 2 pawns. White can just play 9 c takes d5, bishop takes c3 check, b takes c3, and if now queen takes c3 check, then king e2, and black does not have enough for the lost material. It took me a while, but at last I noticed that the queen does not have any safe squares to go to. Therefore the move rook a3 wins the queen for the rook. Thank you all for watching. Until next time, bye bye.